It is officially one of, if not the best times of the year in sports. We are heading into the home stretch of the NHL regular season. March Madness basketball is underway, and now the 2022 NCAA men's hockey tournament is also starting up on Thursday. Last year I made a predictions video for the tournament once the bracket came out, and this year I'm doing the exact same thing. Any of you who may have seen that video probably know I got a lot of picks wrong and made some mistakes, but this year I'm hoping to improve at least a little bit, and I've been following college hockey quite a bit more this year. So for any of you who watched last year's vids, thanks so much for coming back, and for anyone who's new, welcome aboard. Please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoy, and make sure to comment your picks below. Should be a very exciting tournament. Starting it off with the first matchup, we have the overall number 1 seed Michigan Wolverines versus the Atlantic Hockey Conference winners, American International. Michigan has been excellent through the whole season and have one of the most stacked rosters in college hockey history, including 4 of the top 5 picks from the 2021 NHL entry draft. AIC also has had a stellar year and has dominated at times in their conference, but they are 0-4-1 on the year versus ranked opponents, and I think Michigan will be a little too much for them to handle. I'll take the Wolverines in round 1. The second matchup from this region has the Quinnipiac Bobcats taking on the St. Cloud State Huskies. This is a very intriguing game and one that I could very well see going either way. Quinnipiac has the much better record, but I think most would argue that St. Cloud has had one of, if not the toughest schedules of any team in college hockey this year, coming off of the loss to UMass in last year's national championship. The Bobcats goalie, Yaniv Peretz, has had an unbelievable season with a 0.96 goals against average and a .948 save percentage, and the team certainly has a well-rounded lineup with plenty of talent and experience. But I think St. Cloud has just as much talent in their lineup and even more experience, returning pretty much all of their team from last year's championship lineup. I think the Huskies will slightly edge out the Bobcats in round 1. Moving on to the next region, the first matchup will be the Denver Pioneers taking on the UMass Lowell Riverhawks. Both of these teams have played very well this season against ranked opponents, including some of the top teams in the country. Denver has an extremely talented roster with many NHL draft picks and some great scorers, including the nation's leading scorer and Flyers prospect Bobby Brink, as well as guys like Carter Savoy, Cole Gutman, and Carter Mazer. Lowell's offense isn't quite as explosive, but they are a stingy and tough to play against team, and they also have an experienced goalie in Owen Savory who has put up stellar numbers all year. With this being said, I still think Denver will overpower the Riverhawks and take the round 1 win. Our other matchup from this region has the University of Minnesota Duluth Bulldogs against the Michigan Tech Huskies. Huskies have had a strong season in the CCHA but have not played any games against NCHC teams. They have a lot of experienced and hungry players, but they are facing one of the toughest tournament teams in the Bulldogs. UMD is a relatively low-scoring team, but they returned many of their players from last year's team that went to the Frozen Four and still have plenty of talent and a goaltender to go along with it. I have to take Minnesota Duluth here in round 1. Now moving on to the other side of the bracket, we've got the Western Michigan Broncos taking on the Northeastern Huskies. This is another very good matchup in my opinion, as you have an experienced Western Michigan team playing against a Northeastern team with some experience, but also lots of young talent, including one of the top goaltenders in college hockey in Devin Levi. I think the Huskies will make it interesting, but Drew Worrad, Ethan Frank, Ronnie Addard, and the Broncos will get the job done in round 1. The 2-3 matchup has the Minnesota Golden Gophers facing off against the reigning national champs, the UMass Minutemen. The Gophers have challenged Michigan for the best team in the Big Ten at times this year, and they have a lot of really good, talented, and experienced players. But the Minutemen also have some really strong pieces, including guys like Bobby Trevino, Josh Lopina, and Matt Kessel, who all returned after the national championship. They are also heating up at just the right time, coming off of their Hockey East title victory, and for that reason, I'm riding with UMass in the first round. Next, we have the Minnesota State Mankato Mavericks, who are playing the Harvard Crimson in the round of 16. Minnesota State has a dominant 35-5-0 record this year, and have a lot of players as well that came back after getting the Frozen Four in last year's tourney. This includes guys like Nathan Smith, Julian Napravnik, Ryan Sandelin, and goalie Dryden McKay, who is also one of the top 3 netminders in college hockey. Harvard has fought hard all year long too, and have beat some really strong teams like Quinnipiac over the course of the year. They also have some great young talent on the roster, including Matthew Coronado, Nick Abruzzese, and Henry Thrun. I think experience and hunger will prevail in this matchup, however, so I'm picking the Mavericks to take it. And now, finally, for the last game of the first round, we have the North Dakota Fighting Hawks taking on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. This is another game that I could really see going either way. Both teams have had their moments throughout the regular season. The Irish have had some big wins over the year, including some against Michigan, but they haven't faced any NCHC teams. North Dakota lost a lot of key pieces after their season ended last year, but they still have one of the best players in college hockey in Jake Sanderson and some solid transfers. I think this game could be a toss-up, so I'm going with the team that's arguably played the tougher schedule in North Dakota to take it. So, moving on to the second round, our first game would be Michigan versus St. Cloud State. The Wolverines are 2-1 versus NCHC teams this year, and the Huskies are 3-1 versus the Big Ten. But these teams haven't played each other this year, so something's got to give. I think Michigan's firepower could be too much even for an experienced team like St. Cloud, so I'm going to pick the Wolverines in what should be a great game. Next up, we have Denver taking on UMD. These teams are in the same conference, of course, and have already played 5 times this year, with Duluth leading this season's series 3-2. This could end up being a classic, and I'm going to go with the Pioneers to get some revenge on the Bulldogs to keep their season alive. In the next region, we have Western Michigan taking on UMass. This is another great matchup and one that will likely be very entertaining. I think UMass's experience will prevail, and they will go to the Frozen Four for a chance to go back-to-back. And now for the last region, we have Minnesota State taking on North Dakota. I obviously think this will be a good game, but I think the Mavericks will be on a mission to get back to the Frozen Four, so I'm taking them to beat the Fighting Hawks. Okay, so this leaves Michigan versus Denver and UMass versus Minnesota State for the Frozen Four matchups in Boston. The Wolverines and Pioneers are both excellent teams with lots of talent and could both potentially win the championship. Michigan has met the task when playing many of the top 10 teams in the country this year, and I think they will take care of Denver and advance to the national championship game. And for UMass versus Minnesota State, two great teams and both teams that made the Frozen Four last year, I think UMass will fall just short and give Minnesota State a chance to get that highly coveted national championship with this loaded and experienced team. So this would leave us with Michigan facing off against Minnesota State in the finals. These teams did play one another earlier in the year, with Michigan winning that close contest, and I think the Mavericks will be eager to get their revenge on the Wolverines and will take down Michigan for the national title. Make sure to let me know what you think down in the comments, and please hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed. See you in the next one.